All right, my friends. Well, hi, hello, and welcome to Navigating the New Frontier, Dizzion's blueprint for future-proofing DaaS and enhancing end-user computing. Now, today's webinar is sponsored by Dizzion and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator for this conversation today because we are going to travel deep into the heart of innovation and redefine how your teams are interacting with technology. With the help of our expert guides here with us today from Dizzion, we will explore how this incredible team is changing the way we think about desktop as a service and end user computing, but also about how we define what a workplace even is, how a workforce connects, and how to optimize the experience of your team. So we're going to break down boundaries, we're going to forge new paths, we're going to reframe and empower your organization to be a part of this whole new idea of what work is. This is going to be a game changer of a day, and I cannot wait to get started. So I'm going to power through just a few of our housekeeping points, and then we'll get this show on the road. And most of you know this guided tour by now, but we'll go through it again. All right, so let's take a look at your audience console together. We're going to start with that questions window in the console, because the absolute best part of a webinar like the one that we're going to get into today is the chance to ask questions directly of the expert presenters that we are going to be hearing from. And our speakers are very excited to take your questions as we go through. So please send them in, whatever's on your brain, whatever you're thinking about, your ideas, your thoughts, your musings on life. We want to hear from you today. So get those questions in. Now we're going to give it a little bit of a test run right now. So if you haven't already done that, say hi, say hello, give us a wave. Happy Friday, Deepak, Sanjay, Zhang, Morteza, Tamara, Rakesh, Vrej, Jorge. We got a whole awesome crew here. Tell us how you're doing this beautiful Friday morning. Let us know what you're up to and give a wave to the community out there with us. Now, that questions window is also the best place to reach out to the Actual Tech Media crew. So let's say you're having a little bit of a technical issue today. Now, the absolute first step, the thing that's going to solve most of those issues is a browser refresh. Just give your browser a little refresh. If that doesn't work for you, if the tech gremlins have really got hold of you today, no problem. You're going to post a message in that questions window, and the Actual Tech Media team will be there to help you out. So reach out to us. Let us know if you have any issues. Okay, so we were looking at that questions window. The next place we're going to stop at is the handouts tab. So click into that handouts tab right now. There are so many cool takeaways from our crew here today. The Dizzion crew has absolutely packed that handouts tab with awesome resources. So be sure that you're clicking on those links. Be sure that you're opening those up and getting those set aside. Hold on to them, because as soon as we wrap up the webinar, you are going to want to spend some time with those resources. Don't go anywhere just yet, because we've got a lot to cover. But by the end of our webinar, you are going to want those resources. So make sure you open them up now. All right, it is not just awesome content that we are giving away today. We also have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, of course, you do need to be here live at the webinar, and some wonderful live lucky human will get to end their week with a $250 Amazon gift card. Now, you do need to meet all of the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, no problem. We have them linked for you in the handouts tab that we were just chatting about. So head on back over to the handouts tab, click in, scroll down, and you will find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. All right, we have one more awesome prize to give away today, and that is going to go to the best question asked. So we have a $50 Amazon gift card going to the best question. Now, we are going to review all the questions that you ask all the way through the webinar. We're going to look at them after we wrap. So even if we don't get to you live today, we're going to do our best to stay on top of all the questions coming in, but I can see we've got a fun and interactive group here today. So if we do not get to your questions, stay tuned, because you're still entered to win, and you'll get an answer back. We're going to make sure that Dizzion gets all the questions that we asked today, so they will follow up with you over email. So get those questions in, because you get a gold star for engagement, and there's a chance you could win that $50 Amazon gift card. Win, 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 right? All right, well, let's get this show on the road, because I am very excited to get our incredible expert presenters out here with us and get this conversation going. We definitely have a lot to get through and a lot to learn. Today, we will be chatting with Rob Green, CEO at Dizzion, and Yangzhi Zhao, VP of Product, also at Dizzion. I'm going to get Rob and Z on out here with me. Hey, guys, welcome to the webinar.
Hey, everyone.
Thank
you. Thanks for coming.
Well, happy to have you guys here. And I want to start with a little bit of an introduction, a hi, hello. So Rob, maybe I'll ask you to introduce yourself, and then Z.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks again for having us. Rob Green, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dizzion. Just recently took over as CEO earlier this year, and former CTO. So happy to be here and happy to talk about DaaS.
Perfect. Yeah, my name is Yangzhi Zhao. My first name is Yangzhi, but I go by Z for short. Um, I head up a product for Dizzion. Came over about 9 months ago as part of the merger with Frame. Been in the EUC space basically my entire career, going on almost 17 years now. So really excited to kind of talk with Rob and really share with you guys what we're doing in this space and really help reinventing it a little bit, and where we're going to take it and really help out organizations who may be struggling, who may be really new to this, but really kind of giving you guys some insights into what we're seeing in desktop as a service in EUC.
Okay, we have a lot of great content to cover, and I know everyone just got really pumped because everything you just said is something that we all want to learn more about. Well, speaking of introductions, and before we get into all that content that you have in store for us, I was thinking maybe we could start by getting to know Dizzion a little bit, because I know there's a few folks in our audience today who may not be as familiar with your crew. I know that your company's also gone through some big transformations lately. There was a merger with Frame last year. So maybe we could just kind of get to know Dizzion a little bit to start us out. And Rob, you're probably a good person for us to turn that one over to.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, hi, we're Dizzion. Our goal is to take the complexity out of desktop as a service and make it truly simple. A lot of people talk about simple or simplicity and approachability. We really embody that, and it's not something that we just kind of fell and stumbled on. It's something that we've been kind of curating for over a decade. So if you want to move on and kind of look at the timeline of Dizzion. And also look at Frame. So, Dizzion came on the scene in 2011. Our mantra back then is "This is not your grandma's VDI." We wanted to really just burst onto the scene and create a new user experience, high-end user experience. That's one of the things that we saw a lot was limited in terms of the applicability of desktop as a service. Coming from the managed services world, Rackspace, Digex, FireWest, now Flex Central. And I've been a part of this world of seeing, kind of data leave the data center. And we wanted to fix that with our cloud delivered desktops back before there was DaaS. So Dizzion was DaaS before there was DaaS. And as we pioneered this space, we really looked at, what were pain points that customers had. So first and foremost was like, let's deliver a cloud desktop that actually worked. So we accomplished that, and we burst onto the scene. We were doing, fun things like doing voice calls in pitch meetings with customers to kind of explain what this meant. So we moved into PCI and HIPAA. That was a pain point. We saw that regulated environments. It was a big use case, and this is back in 2016 timeframe. We saw that as a huge opportunity here. We flipped, from kind of building our own technology platform in terms of servers and the like to being more of an orchestration play. So we were built on top of VMware technology. We wanted to wrap our managed services around that, make that, again, simple and approachable for our customers. So we wrapped it around using an orchestration engine called Cosmos, something we developed in 2017. We then, kind of jumped into the IBM world. We built a great relationship with IBM. We again looking at who was the best cloud provider to offer a highly resilient environment. We chose IBM, and then we launched our new C3 platform, again enhancing that orchestration engine, and then again double clicking on our support for financial services. So we took a very managed service approach to things. Well, in parallel, Frame really took a cloud native browser first approach, right? Which is amazing at how the two companies came about and took two different approaches, but got to a similar output, right? Creating the world's simplest, most reliant, and cloud native platform. Period. And that's really the match made in this year. So, Z.
Yeah, I would say, from our perspective is, it's really two pioneers, two leaders in the space that really, again, approach it in very different ways. On the frame side, we really focused on adding support for additional public cloud infrastructure. It's really taking VDI and removing a lot of the complexity through technology and innovation. So when we burst on the scene, it was really when AWS kind of launched their first GPU-enabled instances back in 2013, became the first true cloud-native, multi-tenant native DaaS platform out there. Added support for Azure later on. We were acquired by Nutanix for a short while. That's how we came to Dizzion after the acquisition from Nutanix. But added support for private hybrid cloud support, really making it a lot more flexible for customers who want to deploy both in the public cloud as well as their own private and hybrid clouds. GCP support came next in 2019 and really kind of rounded out our top 3 public cloud vendors out there today. And I would just say it's we're also a full stack DaaS platform, which is not unique in this industry, but certainly amongst the top players, your Citrix of the world, Microsoft, VMware, they all own that full stack, right? A lot of the more niche players, they don't, right? We are one of the ones that really developed not only the back end control plane for the orchestration, for the automation, right? But we also developed the front end terminal that your users are actually using an interface with their session, as well as the remoting protocol, right? That's doing all the encoding and delivery of what is happening on the VM to your end users. And this development really allows us to really fully control what we're doing, allows us to iterate on that experience end to end for both users and for admins. And that's certainly really important as we move forward. We have our own frame remoting protocol called FRP, latest version of FRP 8, and still the only remoting protocol in the market that's standardized on RTC today for remote, which allows us to do a lot of really cool innovation things like fully native in-session audio, in-session video conferencing without having to offload that to the endpoint device, which is really, really powerful. And we also achieved our Chrome Enterprise recommended solution back in 2022. And that's really to what Rob mentioned, is that we really designed our user experience with that browser in mind first and foremost, trying to deliver as premium of a user experience and as intuitive as a user experience as we can through that browser without having to rely on any kind of endpoints or clients on that endpoint device to deliver that experience.
Well, you guys have certainly come through a lot of innovative thought processes, and you've had a lot of change and really rolled with some pretty exciting opportunities there. And I'm wondering, and I think, Z, you're really teasing out some of what we're going to continue to dig into and explore a little bit more in terms of some of the features that you offer. But there might be some folks in the audience who really don't feel familiar with desktop as a service, and maybe don't want to admit it and would like to maybe just take a little bit of a step back through the kind of evolution and how Dizzion's been a part of that. So I'm wondering if maybe we could spend a little bit of time with that kind of storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. This industry's been around for a long time. It's going on 35 years now. Really started back in 1989 when Citrix was kind of first founded, and they got into this like kind of multi-user type of experience on top of Windows OS 2. So this is a long time ago, and it's that was really what we call before VDI. It was kind of the inception of this space. Microsoft released terminal services way back in the day in 1998, and that kind of became really the birth of like a kind of a remote session type of experience to a Windows machine at that point. Citrix and VMware, they were kind of the first two major players when we call really taking that remote desktop kind of experience and really adding on a lot more enterprise type of capabilities to it, from a user experience point of view, from a management point of view, with Citrix and Desktop and VMware View. They both kind of came out at a very similar time back in 2007. And that's where things started really kicking off in this space of desktop virtualization. Dizzion, founded in 2011, really came in at really the tail end of VDI and really say, hey, okay, these solutions are great, but there's a lot of complexity. Not all organizations have the manpower, the expertise to really know how to, design, deploy, and manage these types of offerings, right? And really be able to leverage it. They see the value of it from a business value perspective, certainly. But it's not trivial, right? And so they took that and say, hey, how can we make this, something that, more customers, more organizations can consume? And that's where they released their managed DaaS offering, again, built on top of the VMware EUC platform, right? And then, like we mentioned, Frame kind of, really invented DaaS, back in 2013 when we released it. AppStream 1.0 from AWS was also going to release the exact same day. And this was really saying, hey, we're not just going to manage the control plane for a specific customer. We're going to have a single cloud native control plane that's multi-tenant for all customers, host that in the cloud, and then basically allow customers to consume that platform as a service. And that's kind of how Frame approached things. And then over the years, it's been a lot of other players moving that control plane, moving it into the cloud. Citrus Cloud launched in 2015. And then we also had, Microsoft stepping into the game, change things with Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows Virtual Desktop, back in the day. And then more and more players are entering this space in this era of DaaS, which is great. It really kind of validates this technology, this industry, which is phenomenal and helps really our CTO, field CTO Ruben Sprite. He always mentions rising tides lifts all boats, and that's very much the case here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say it's really good to understand kind of where we've been, and that kind of predicts out and lays out where we're going, and as you see, the EUC space specifically, where we get our desktops, whether it's multi-session back before VDI, getting into the VDI space, the evolution to DaaS, and now the era of DaaS. And then, letting that predict as to what's going to happen next, right? There's tons of innovation in this space, tons of opportunity to improve user experience. I think, as we start to move, kind of through this paradigm, you see a lot more focus on end user experience, right? What's driving all of this innovation is the actual end user experience. I think that's important for us to understand. That's the focal point of tomorrow. That's the reason why all this technology exists, is because we want to help users have a better experience and do their job from anywhere, with the highest level of consistency and the highest level of output and productivity.
I think, and I love that. I love looking at where we've been in order to kind of move forward. And obviously one of the things that is constantly changing is security needs and compliance. We did get a question, and I think we're going to dig into this a little bit more later on, but I do want to flag this. We got a question about ensuring that we can maintain security and compliance standards and match system performance and user experience in a DaaS environment. Would you like to speak to that a little bit now? And then we can come back to it in greater detail a bit later on.
I'd love to take it now.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the things that we look back on, and the reason why we did compliance in 2016 is because we wanted to build it into the product itself. So it's in our DNA. Security, compliance is in our DNA. We look at that continuous, security, continuous compliance as not just kind of point in time. It's like you got to be always on from a security perspective. Like I look at security as protecting the castle, and then compliance is proving that you can do it. You'll start to see this year some really big announcements from us for new products. I'll give you kind of a sneak peek to it. Security Pulse. So where we actually are tracking all the work that we are doing and visualizing all the work we're doing from a security perspective, so our customers can see it. It's something we do natively. It's something we've done for years and years and years, and it's a great point. Like sometimes there's a trade-off. High security, low performance. And we've curated our systems and our solutions to have both the performance as well as the high-end security. And it's by building the security into the product and not bolting it on afterwards.
I love that point. I think that's, adding that in early on in the early phases. And I'm gonna take that from you, Rob. The security is the castle, and then compliance is proving that you can protect. I love that. I think that's such a great reframe, because so often compliance is the thing that we hate doing. But I like thinking of it as, hey, prove you can.
Yeah.
That's a solid reframe. All right. Well, I think we've gone on quite a bit of a journey here through, the before VDI, the era of VDI. I love that. And then as DaaS is born, which feels like it should have bright, shiny stars and heavenly music coming out as DaaS is born. But I want to keep going a little bit in this conversation. And, we did get a question coming in, and maybe this will help kind of pull our conversation through about the difference between VDI and DaaS and why somebody would want to choose one or the other. And so maybe where we can go next is to kind of help give some clarity between those and why one might be a better choice than the other.
Yeah, it really comes down to at the root is really just the control plane, like what we talked about, right? It's really what is ultimately brokering users into their sessions. It's what your admins are administrating and deploying to help orchestrate the overall platform, provisioning VMs, deprovisioning VMs, and either having that be fully self-deployed and self-managed by the customer, which is really what VDI has been, versus taking that control plane and hosting it as a cloud service, which is really what desktop as a service is. So that's kind of the crux of the difference between VDI and DaaS.
Perfect. All right, we have a super cool graphic up here, and I got to know more about the end user computing hexagrid. Z, maybe do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're seeing?
Yeah. So this is something that we started working on a few months ago. And it really stemmed internally, and a huge shout out to again our field CTO Ruben Sprite, who really led this initiative for us. But it was really about for us beginning internally to understand where do we fit in the overall EUC end user computing ecosystem. This is a ecosystem that has grown quite a bit over the years, over the decades, and we wanted to kind of understand, hey, how does Dizzion fit into everything? What are the other major categories and solutions types that are part of this ecosystem that our customers, that our prospects, our partners are living day to day. Obviously, potentially not everything, but certainly things that they are considering and considering leveraging to help improve that end user experience, improve that end user security that Rob mentioned. And once we kind of finished putting it together, and then we started with the Excel spreadsheet, as with most things do, but it ended up in this graphic that we created, and we kind of broken it up into different categories, and we also identified the major players, and these are all great vendors in this space, and it's something that now we're taking a look at it and saying, great, now we understand where we fit. What we need to do now is, I think, take that next step further, and how do we better integrate with some of these partners. So, whether it's, with unified communications, whether it's endpoint security, right, with DEX, with ADCs and CASBs, thin clients, these are all things that we work with on a day-to-day basis, but to kind of see it visually, I think is very, very powerful.
It is extremely powerful, and I do want to let the audience know that we have one of the resources that is available right now in your handouts tab is this hexagrid. So I think it's the first link. So click in right now and snag this hexagrid, because I know it's a little hard to see on the screen right now. So please do make sure that you snag that and keep that for later. And and I think we've got a little bit of a further breakdown even that we want to look into with all of you guys. Z, if you want to speak a little bit further on if anyone is feeling overwhelmed by the hexagrid and dig in a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. We also, have created this really great white paper that kind of walks through the overall EUC ecosystem, all of the various pillars that we've kind of identified, the 6 pillars, right, in the hexagrid. The sub pillars within each of those. Fantastic asset. I've been in this space a long time, and this is, for the longest time, I've never seen something as comprehensive as this white paper that really explains and takes a step back at the overall EUC ecosystem. It really breaks it down into these various categories, and then also really highlighting some of the major players in each of these categories. And of course, this is a constantly evolving, type of space. It's going to get bigger. There will be consolidations, there will be expansions, as with anything. But for, even if you're a expert on EUC and have been in this space a long time, really valuable. But for customers and prospects and for partners that are newer to this space and trying to understand it better, there's no better resource to kind of get started with. So you can definitely take a look at this white paper. There's a little QR code here that you can scan to download it straight from Dizzion.com.
Well, and I think, you've mentioned a couple of times the change in the space. And there's two things that I want to ask you about that. And one is I'm going to ask you about sort of what's changing and what's coming. And I want to get to that in a second. But we did have an audience question that came in asking if you could sort of offer some key differentiators. If somebody was wondering where Dizzion really stands out. And I know we're going to spend a little time with this later on as well, but wondering if you can kind of give us a few right now that, or one, whatever it is that jumps out at you that really makes Dizzion a stand out in the field.
Yeah, we're, to my knowledge, right, and we'll cover this in later slides too, but really at the crux of it is from a software, or in this case, a DaaS vendor perspective, we're the only vendor that's doing both the technology platform, taking care of all of the orchestration, the remoting protocol, the user experience, the admin experience, and we're also marrying that with a really comprehensive set of tailored services that you can basically leverage the vendor to help streamline either administration of the environment, to streamline compliance of the environment, like Rob talked about, hosting services. So really, providing a set of technology and services that really allows a customer, wherever they are in their EUC journey, and allowing us to meet you where you are. Right. So if you don't have a ton of expertise in house or lack the resources, we can really put together a solution straight from the vendor to help address that. As you move forward and as you, say, hey, look, this is something that we now feel really comfortable with. We want to start taking over management of the environment. Great. We can do that as well. So really providing that level of flexibility is, I think, very unique in this space. And again, because we control the overall development of the entire platform, it also allows us to really, work with our customers, understand what their needs are, and take the product to meet those needs, moving forward.
And I was just going to add on to that. I think that Z makes some really good points there. Having that holistic solution, right? That managed service aspect of it, and people talk about day one versus day two. Like, we help you enable you to conquer day two. We're all about, coming alongside you and helping to do the patching, to do the security, the heavy lifting. CVEs come out, we're remediating them for you. And so it takes a lot of that burden off, and being that one true solution that does that. And the other thing I would say in terms of kind of who we are in our DNA, on top of being simple, we're modern. And I think that modern component, really drives home, where customers are in their journey of digital transformation and how they're adopting the remote, work and work from home and all the security components there. We're that Sherpa, and we aim to be that Sherpa that helps come alongside our customers and meet them where they are in their journey.
Perfect. I love that. Well, great answers. And I'm going to move us along towards, where we had sort of discussed going next was the idea of the industry itself. You were kind of teasing this out, Z, that things are changing. There's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of change. So Z, wondering if I can hand things back over to you to kind of let us know how these changes in the field are really impacting the industry and how that might affect our audience.
Yeah, so we'll first start with the MQ, right, which is the first time ever that Gartner has put together a Magic Quadrant for this space. And I'll say again, credit goes to Microsoft for this, really entering this into space and really focusing on it with AVD, with their cloud PC solution, because it really validates this industry as a whole, and this is certainly a result of that. So Microsoft right now, leader in the space, Citrix and VMware, longtime leaders. We'll talk about them in the next slide. AWS is certainly in there as well. And then Dizzion is kind of right there in that kind of the leader of the pack for some of these mid-tier players that I would say. And this is before the acquisition of Frame. So now if you kind of take Dizzion and Frame together, we're really looking to move into that challenger leader category, very soon. And really from an innovation perspective, size perspective, right? It's a space that definitely has a lot of change recently, and we'll kind of get to that with the couple of elephants in the room, and that really is elephant one is really the Citrix, and then the second elephant is really VMware and Broadcom, right? So Citrix has gone private. Yeah, exactly. And Citrix is really, they've gone private equity, right? Citrix is now, really focused on their top, 1,000 customers, really in a different stage, let's just say, of their evolution, which is, it's fine. But they have historically been the leader in desktop virtualization, application virtualization for many decades. And for them to really pivot their strategy to focus on their top enterprise customers really makes it difficult for new customers, smaller customers to really leverage them as a vendor, right? It makes it very difficult, and a lot of these customers and partners are kind of feel like they're being left out in the cold. Doesn't help when they're increasing their prices as well. Is what seems like is happening. So that's definitely a challenge, right? VMware didn't help things, let's just say. So very recently, VMware was acquired officially by Broadcom. This was kind of a long time coming, and Broadcom is doing what Broadcom does, I would say, best. And it's also really impacting the industry because VMware's EUC division, which comprises of Horizon as well as Workspace ONE, is now also being sold off to private equity. And that is also going to have significant impacts to customers' renewal pricing, academic pricing, all these things, because they now have to pay for VMware licenses. They have to pay for EUC subscriptions separately. And it's going to be a major impact to how they're ultimately going to be able to adjust their budgets in a way that is still going to be conducive to success, I should say, right? So it's a very challenging time for a lot of folks who are very familiar with this space. And Rob, I would love to kind of get your insights as well, because as Rob mentioned, Dizzion built their managed DaaS platform on top of VMware EUC. So from a vendor perspective, let's just say that we feel the pain better than most. We understand the pain better than most. And it's an interesting time for everybody.
Yeah, and I would say for the last, let's say, 5 years or so, we've been in the top 5 EUC cloud service provider for VMware globally. In more recently, in the last 2 years, I think, or 3 years, we have created some distance between kind of the number 2 folks and us. So we are Horizon experts, and we have been Horizon experts for going on 12 years. So absolutely, we're feeling the pain internally, and working with the EUC division over there, they're feeling the pain. So change is sometimes good, sometimes it's bad. In this situation, there's going to be some chaos here, and that's really where I think Dizzion is really positioned well, is to help those customers navigate those uncharted, choppy waters, right, and avoid the icebergs. And I think that's an important aspect of this change, is that there are icebergs out there that may seem like, hey, we don't have that big of a price increase, but a year from now, the rest of the iceberg will kind of rear its head for you. You start to see there's a major migrations that have to happen as a result there. So I think from a positioning standpoint, for those customers who are struggling with Horizon, those customers who are struggling with kind of understanding where to go next, that's where we're here to help, right? And that's what we're good at. We are again top 5 in the world in terms of Horizon consumption, as well as support. So that's an area that we can definitely drive some insights into. And if you look at kind of holistically outside of the elephants in the room, obviously those behemoths taking things and moving in different directions, you start to see things that are shaping the DaaS market, cloud first strategy, right? And these are things that we didn't come up with. This is from Gartner, so this is not something that Dizzion just like, oh, let's go figure this out. Although many of these things align directly with our strategy, and And we've seen this time and time again play out as we have as evolved over the years. This cloud first strategy, right? Being able to use a cloud native platform. So, again, one of the biggest differentiators is really having the ability to do multi-cloud. And I think, browser native and multi-cloud is really a driver here that, is really impacting the DaaS market. How do you future-proof, and how do you diversify, and how do you get closer to different, environments and different users, right? Again, going back to what's going to be moving us forward is this, end user experience being the crux of kind of how we deliver the technology. Cloud is a core component of how do we do that, and how do we get closer to users. Of course, improving our endpoint security posture. That's going to be security. It's been, for my entire career in this space, going on 25 years. I don't think security has ever fallen off of a high ticket, a high priority item. It's always been there. It will continue to always be there, and it will get even more kind of pertinent to what we're doing as we move into cloud, and as we get more distributed in our workforce and support anywhere work, and support the flexibility of users kind of working from coffee shops and unknown networks. Security is going to be paramount. Again, continue to be paramount. BYOD, obviously, a big thing that people have been talking about for a long time. But again, achieving that endpoint independence, allowing people to use their devices of their choice, giving, again, end users the better experience. Part of that better experience is use the device that you're most familiar with, the user device that you already have, use the device that you're comfortable with moving with and navigating, and that's really what's going to be driving BYOD. And I thought this was unique in terms of sustainability. If you think about where quote unquote the cloud lives, it lives in data centers, right? It lives in very large data centers. And Gartner did a study that said virtual desktops actually consume less carbon. Like the carbon footprint is significantly less using virtual desktops. And that was news to me, because you think about big data centers, that uses a lot of power, but it actually uses a lot of clean power. Which obviously reduces carbon footprint as we go through. And then think about the expansion of longevity of your devices. So instead of replacing devices every 2 to 3 years, now you're replacing devices maybe 4 to 5 years, or even going further in that, and 6, 7 years as things get more lightweight in terms of those endpoints. And then, of course, reducing operational complexity. The advent of cloud and being able to make updates in one place and push them out nearly immediately, regardless of what network you're on, regardless of what Active Directory you're on, regardless of all those things in a distributed environment, is kind of ties back into how do you create a solid security posture? How do you respond to events very quickly? We have tons and tons of customers who 0 day comes out, that morning they're patched, right? Who can say that about their laptop fleet, right? It's nearly impossible to do that, but with virtual desktops, absolutely, we see it time and time again, and that's the value that we see, being delivered to our customers every day.
Yeah, I would just add that, like, for sustainability is huge for me personally, for a lot of folks that are concerned about the planet and the climate. But e-waste right now, old phones, old devices, 62 million metric tons of e-waste is generated just in a year. And if you kind of put that in perspective, that can fill 1.5 million 40 metric ton trucks bumper to bumper around the entire equator. And that's just terrifying in some respects. So it's one of those things where it's clean power, but it's also delivering the resources that the user needs, and only those resources, right? And really tailoring that so that, hey, if you don't need a huge laptop or you only need it for, let's say, this one project, with virtual desktop virtualization solutions, you can really do that and really tailor that resource consumption on a even on a per user basis if we need to.
Mm. All right, we're going to keep moving. And I'm sorry, I was taking a second to let that soak in, because that's a really powerful image, Z. But I think I'd love to talk a little bit more about what you guys are seeing trending. And Rob, maybe you can start us out on this one as well. Oh, sorry. Maybe Z, you were kind of talking about future proofing, so I'm gonna send it back to you a little bit.
Sure.
I'm pulling a fast one on you guys.
No worries. All good. So this is really what we're seeing when we talk to our customers, when we talk to our prospects, seeing less of, seeing about the same, and seeing more. From a use case perspective, what we're seeing more of is really your full desktop replace type of opportunities, right? Modern workplace. And it's really because we've shifted into this, hybrid work model, remote work model that really, requires this type of use case. And the technology has gotten there. The technology has gotten to the point where we're able to take that, end user experience that customers, end users, require, be able to do, video conferencing, right, completing a session. Those technologies now exist, and it didn't for a long time. And that's really opening the gates for these more advanced, more use cases that require a more premium user experience, right? On the topic of sustainability, a lot more Chromebooks, supporting those and be able to deliver Windows applications and desktops to those Chromebooks and really addressing gaps that may be there from a user experience point of view. A lot more seasonal and contract workers. So this is being driven by just a high growth in contractor labor in general across the world. It's being driven also, by the modern workforce, let's just say, that's looking to pivot from your traditional 8 to 5 type of salary positions, and it's really giving organizations a lot larger and flexible workforce pool to pull from and to really leverage, which is really driving this use of desktop virtualization to be able to deliver these digital workspaces to users, get them up running really quickly, and be able to offboard them also very quickly and very securely. From a session modality perspective, again, makes sense, right? More virtual desktops, less virtual apps. Again, what we're seeing because of this shift to contractor-based labor, to BYOD devices, right? A lot more browser-focused access, right, and less client and having to manage that endpoint device from a enterprise perspective. And then Rob touched on it earlier, but a huge shift just in general with focus around the user experience and really giving users the ability to do what they are normally used to doing with their laptop, right? And that's why we're also seeing a big shift toward persistent virtual desktops. Non-persistent has dominated this industry, still continues to dominate from just a number of seats perspective, certainly. But what we're seeing is also just more and more new use cases, especially for greenfield customers that are wanting to give the end user the ability to install their own applications and provide that better overall UX than what we've historically seen in this field. And all these things also means more resources. Typically, your modern SaaS app today, even Windows 11 today, all these things typically expect a GPU, let's just say, on that device, whether it's a physical device or a virtual device. So seeing less and less of these 1 vCPU, 2 gig, 4 gig of RAM machines. The standard these days is at least a 2 vCPU, 8 gig of RAM instance, and even more so now we're seeing more 4 vCPU and GPU enabled instances. I'll kind of just from an infrastructure perspective, hybrid cloud is about the same. Seeing less private cloud, but certainly still there. But the dominant trend is really around public cloud and multi-cloud in this desktop virtualization perspective. So I'll kind of stop there. And yeah, Rob, any other thoughts here on this one?
No, I just think you see the evolution, right? So, folks were dipping their toe in, using it for specific use cases, very nuanced use cases. And now you got that rapid, broader adoption, widening the aperture in terms of where these things can be applied is the trend that we're seeing. Of course, driven by the things that we've talked about there, but really, at the end of the day, it's about delivering a better end user experience to your users. And how do you curate that is by building a holistic solution versus point. Use a small desktop for this use case for these groups. It becomes less of a driver versus, hey, we've got all these users who are everywhere. How do we give them a consistent platform to do their work on?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Z, let's leave this with you.
Yeah, I would say there's also for the folks listening in, it's also really good to understand there's different vendor types
Mm-hmm.
in DaaS, and this is how Gartner will kind of segment the vendors out. And it's really around ultimately who is managing the DaaS environment, who is hosting the environment, and also who is ultimately piecing it together, right, and deploying it. So with self-assembled, what this really means is, hey, the DaaS vendor is giving you the components to piece together, your solution, and you're mostly self-assembling it to your liking, right, per your specific, design. Vendor assembled, kind of takes a more of a prescriptive approach. We're able to, you know, uh, automate your infrastructure for you, provision out your networking for you, but you're still taking care of things like your operating system, your application updates, where you choose to host, things like that. Vendor managed takes it to the next level. Is hey, we're going to also provide again some of the managed services where we can offload some of the OS updates, potentially application updates. Right, we're going to be able to help you make configuration updates to your DaaS environment for new use cases. Let's just say, but you're also still hosting an environment for you. You're providing your end user supports. And then the last category is vendor managed, but in a hosted manner is that, hey, this is where you're really trying to offload as much of the ongoing operational support of the environment, including the hosting infrastructure, to the vendors themselves. And this is kind of the main groups. And if you kind of go to the next slide here about vendor types, I'm sorry, key DaaS vendors by type. These are some of the key players, right? Based on the Magic Quadrant, self-assembled really be AVD, Citrix, right? DaaS, VMware, Horizon, or in the future will be Nuco, whatever the company's gonna be called. And then across vendor assembled, vendor managed, hosted. This is really where Dizzion is focused on to be able to provide that level of flexibility. Again, meeting the customers where they are. Vendor assembled is also where Amazon Workspaces plays. Windows 365 Cloud PC is also considered a vendor assembled solution. Workspot, and then as you shift more toward vendor managed, vendor hosted, this is more of your typical service providers, right? These are companies that are building their managed services solutions on top of existing DaaS software vendors. So like Anunta, leverages both Citrix, leverages Horizon, leverages AVD, right? DingCloud also does very similar, leveraging Citrix historically, also leveraging AVD. So really kind of building and adding services on top of an existing platform.
Awesome. Rob,
And
anything
yeah,
you want to add in on that?
good.
I would just just look at what differentiates us against other players here is that it's what we've been talking about. It's that we have our entire software stack, right? So we created and built everything from the remoting protocol to all the APIs and all the integrations there. But we also meet our customers where they are in the DaaS journey. And I think that having that managed option where we take that day two lift off of you, and not have to kind of add on to that. So I think that's a big deal in terms of how you're evaluating, kind of as we move forward in the EUC space.
Yeah, and then this is also where the market's going. So historically it's been mostly vendor assembled. Customer assembled, self-assembled in the past, and we see it right now. But Gartner also has seen it. Really a big shift toward vendor assembled and vendor managed solutions over the next few years, going from less than 20% in 2023 last year to more than 80% by 2026. This is also driven by a growing, let's just say, shortage of folks in IT operations. Also, desire amongst organizations to kind of refocus their resources on focusing on things that they want to add value on, and becoming more of a commoditized consumerization of desktop as a service. And so the vendors that are able to provide those additional value add operational services like that Dizzion provides is really going to be able to help those customers who are looking to make that pivot and transition moving forward.
I think that's a perfect segue to where I'd like to go next, Ian. And I wish this wasn't true, but we have about 10 minutes left in our time together. I have no idea how this entire webinar just flew by. So with the 10 minutes that we have left, what I would really love to do is transition a little bit more into Dizzion, really specifically where you guys are at now and where you're going. So maybe we can kind of move into what we're seeing on the screen here now.
Yeah, and it's really around our core offering. So this is what we're going to market with, Dizzion Flex. This is really for customers who want to do it themselves. They have the expertise, they understand this space, they understand how the differentiators between managing physical laptops versus managing virtual desktops and virtual applications. And the goal here is really to provide as premium of an experience as we can from our product. Be able to provide these enterprise type features and be able to configure them very quickly for the administrator and really ease that operational overhead and provide the flexibility, right, for these customers to not be locked in to a certain cloud provider. And this is huge because right now you may be a big, let's say, AWS shop. A new CTO comes in, they love Google Cloud and they want to pivot there. Fantastic. Or another CTO comes in, big fan of Nutanix, let's say, and wants to bring things on-prem to really kind of save on cost because they're no longer getting the discounts that they were they used to get in public cloud. So to be able to move and transition and adapt to those changes long term is really what's future-proofing our solutions, is be able to adapt with our customers, and then also really focusing on providing the best-in-class industry support, and also allowing customers to really automate everything by API is a big part of our platform. And then managed, that's taking the expertise, the administration from a DaaS specific perspective, right? And being able to deliver that as a service, deliver that through our product, be able to handle OS updates, browser updates, and really patch the systems, and really allow Dizzion to do what we do best and allow you to focus, our customers to focus on what they do best, right? And marrying that together and really augmenting your existing IT teams to really take advantage of these solutions very, very quickly. And then complete, that's where say, hey, can Dizzion offload even more operations from a hosting perspective? And we certainly can. We can also host your digital workspaces onto our managed clouds and be able to provide a more holistic type of solution for those customers who want it. And then lastly, our Plus Compliance add-on. This is really saying, okay, well, control plane, compliance, that's kind of table stakes for the DaaS vendor. But how do we help our customers achieve attestation and compliance from a digital workspace perspective, right? Helping them out with their compliance audit support, being able to take over antivirus management, data privacy protocols, vulnerability detection, right? All these things that, are difficult, and we know they're difficult because we've done it, over the years, but turn that into a service to really streamline compliance for our customers who are in those regulated industries. Rob, anything to add there?
No, I mean, you covered it well.
Cool. All right.
You're nailing it. So, yeah, keep it up.
Yeah. All right. So kind of moving forward, it's, for those folks that, want to have a better understanding of how our platform works, we're true multi-cloud desktop as a service. And what that means is our platform, again, we Dizzion manage multi-tenant. We host that for our customers as a service. We maintain that. And that's doing everything from the automation, orchestration, identity management, integrations with whatever your IDP of choice is. I talked about already APIs, our possession and admin APIs to essentially take whatever you can do through our GUI and consume it through an API endpoint. I already talked about the frame remoting protocol and why that's important. Certainly the GUI themselves, the console, the user launchpad to interface with our platform in terms of an out-of-box solution, and then making it really abstract in terms of where you're deploying to. And that's a really big part of it, is that from a single platform to be able to deploy these workloads into your cloud of choice. And in the public cloud, we support AWS natively, GCP, Azure, all through their API gateways. And then we're also adding support for IBM Cloud VPC coming in May is the target, and really being that first DaaS cloud native vendor in IBM Cloud, and that's a huge deal. And I think that IBM Cloud's been kind of an option that's always been there, and being able to take a really popular workload like EUC and be able to deploy into IBM Cloud is going to be very powerful for those customers who are looking to go there. And then certainly from a private and hybrid perspective, we're still a huge partner with Nutanix. There's been absolutely wonderful, and be able to deploy our workloads onto Nutanix cloud infrastructure for those customers who are looking to deploy and keep things on-prem or in a hybrid perspective is also going to be something that's on our roadmap for a long time. And to be able to support those workloads on-prem is really, really powerful for those customers who are really trying to focus on balancing, being cloud smart, and really managing their costs and bursting in the cloud as necessary. So that's kind of the whole multi-cloud aspect of Dizzion.
Yeah, and I would just add to this, Z. We're cloud native, right? So we are already here. We're already in the places that our customers need us to be, truly supporting that multi-cloud, but also removing the complexity, right? All the automation is built in. So you put in your API key, to your GCP, your Azure, your AWS, and then you're ready to deploy. In a matter of hours, you're up and running versus days, weeks, months of this integration and that integration and this technical support person and that technical support person. Like, you do not have to have a PhD and frame to actually get it to work. It's very intuitive, it's very simple, and we've taken the complexity out of running on top of these cloud platforms. So people always ask me, like, hey, do you compete with Azure and AWS? I was like, no, we complete them. We make it easier for our customers to consume them and drive a more consistent output. I think that's what's important as we look at this. We're already there, and we've been there for quite some time. And now others will start to move into kind of adopting our modern way of doing things. But again, we're different by design, and that's really key takeaway there. And as we look at like what's next for Dizzion, and I realize we're short on time, so I'll breeze through these things. It's like we're going to double down on making it effortless, flexible, and powerful for both our administrators, right? Because they're users as well as our end users, right? Making it a delightful experience for all people who are involved in delivering DaaS, because we know the stresses of managing it because we do that. It really double downing, double clicking on that. We really want to make sure that day two is just as simple as what we've done in orchestrating and automating day one efforts there. So, as we look at the hexagrid is our roadmap, it's our blueprint for doing integrations. You're going to start seeing us really talk about composable digital workspaces. What is composable digital workspaces? Understanding that like there's a whole ecosystem that our customers have to integrate. You have to buy your antivirus. You got to buy your remote monitoring solution. You got to buy your DEX monitoring solution. All these things are bolt-ons that again starts to steal time from your administrators. We're going to make it easier and more integrated to just click a button, put an API key, just like you do with cloud, with all these other vendors, starting with the EUC hexagrid is kind of our blueprint there. And then focusing in on AI, but not just for the sake of AI. Repositioning the technology to help organizations and users streamline how they do development, how they adopt solutions, how they just embrace it. So it's like we're solving problems using the technology and moving away from solving problems with the technology. And that's a critical takeaway for us. Is we want to be an empowerment and a driver. And I think the EUC kind of ecosystem as a whole is driving towards this more end user experience driven model, and the technology that comes out of not only Dizzion but all of the folks in the EUC space is really going to be focused in on making that end user experience second to none.
I love that, and I think you're right. We are getting close to the end of time, but what was great about that, Rob, is you actually hit on a few of the questions that were coming in right at the end. Were all around AI, and I think that was a great. You just knocked off all those questions in one go. So well done, efficiency and simplicity there. We do have a QR code up here for anyone out there that is looking to get that or to spend some time learning a little bit further. This is an upcoming webinar. Do you guys want to say anything else about this webinar?
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, it's what we talked about with the EUC hexagrid, and just going into more detail into it, deep
Yeah.
diving into the ecosystem. So Ruben's going to lead that webinar. So if you're interested in, so take a look at the white paper, and if that piques your interest, it's gonna be a fantastic session with Ruben, and it's always great getting his insights into things.
Yeah, and there are, again, the white paper, the hex grid, the chance to go explore Dizzion's website. There's all kinds of great resources there for you in that handouts tab. So if you're looking for some follow-up opportunities immediately, make sure you've got that handouts tab open. Click on all of those, open those tabs, and then save them, because we're going to close our webinar pretty quickly here, and you are going to want to spend a little bit more time. Remember, this is just scratching the surface, and there is so much more to learn about Dizzion. So please do continue on with those resources. Z and Rob, I know that we are not going to be able to stop for questions right now, but I do want to tell you both that first of all, you guys have done a great job of answering them as we went through, so well done. And second of all, we will make sure that all of the questions asked get sent on to your team, so you will be able to follow up with everyone in email. We had a lot to get through today, guys. This has been a ton of fun, and I do want to thank both of you for being here. Before I let you go, though, Rob, if you had to recommend sort of a key next step that you would want other than the webinar and the handouts, what would you suggest as a way to get started with Dizzion?
Test drive. It's all about the test drive. Seeing is believing. That's what we feel is the best way to kind of understand what Dizzion does, is to try it out. And we have a test drive on our website, and it's something that is a big deal for us. And of course, as you're going through the turmoil, if you will, of what's going on with Broadcom and EUC, like we are experiencing it firsthand. So if you need guidance there, we are literally the experts in the space, and we can help you. We can be that Sherpa for you, as we all are navigating through that transition.
Well, I love that. Z, any final thoughts from you?
No, just trying to answer some questions, that's in the chat, but we'll get to those hopefully offline. But really appreciate everyone's time on a Friday. And we really appreciate you investing in that and asking great questions. And wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and looking forward to working with all of you moving forward.
Well, thank you so much, Z, and thank you so much, Rob. This has been an absolute pleasure. I hope we get to chat again soon. There's clearly lots more to say.
Absolutely.
All right, and to everyone out there that is still asking questions, Z is furiously working in the background to get back to as many of you as he can over live chat, so keep those questions coming in. Cedric, I see you. I also thought that was a great presentation. Sean, thank you so much for the high five. Yeah, honestly, there are so many wonderful takeaways and things to be said at the end of a presentation like this. I don't know about you guys, but my brain just kind of feels like it's firing on all cylinders. There's all kinds of little sparks going and lighty up moments as we went through this, and I love this opportunity to talk about innovative options, and especially when it comes to work remote, especially when it comes to working with distributed workforces, not just because obviously that's close to home for me, literally, and as I speak to you all from my home, but I think this is something that affects all of us. It affects how we work. It affects this huge part of our lives, and it's so important to have these types of conversations where we do get to think a little strategically and think beyond the box, and maybe throw the box away and build a whole new box together. So I've really enjoyed being a part of this conversation with all of you. Now, I want to let you get on about your Friday, so let me do this prize giveaway. Let's give a $250 Amazon gift card to somebody who is here live and present at the webinar. And that special somebody getting an extra little bump to their Friday feels is Michelle Clayton from Tennessee. Michelle Clayton of Tennessee, congratulations to you, Michelle. And as always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap. We also have that best question gift card coming at you, and we will review all the questions asked after we finish. So I know there was a lot of questions that we did not get to in our session today, but you are still entered to win. And again, not only is Z doing his best to get back to you during our session here, we will also send all of these questions to the Dizzion crew, so you will get responses back from all of them. So if you have a lingering question, that thing that's still lodged in your brain, get that out right now. And we'll make sure you get a response. All right, my friends. So with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank Dizzion for making this webinar possible. A huge, giant thank you to Rob and to Z for guiding us through such an interesting conversation today. And, of course, as always, my biggest high fives, my biggest Friday gold stars are going to all of you out there. Thank you so much for taking time in your morning, your afternoon. I saw someone coming in from Ireland, so middle of the night, to come and join us here. Again, today was a really exciting day for me as well, and I hope for all of you, getting to dig into some of these long-held, well-established ideas and learning how we can adjust them, tweak them, expand them, grow, supercharge, or completely redefine. And these innovative ideas really do have that potential to affect all of us, regardless of industry or team. So I think this was a big day, a big conversation, and I'm so happy that I got to be a part of all of it with you today. And I hope that this is just the start for you. I hope that you take all of these wonderful resources in the handouts tab and continue this conversation from here and reach out to Dizzion and learn a little bit more. All right, my friends. Well, it is Friday. I'm going to let you all get on about your happy hours or whatever else you have going on this afternoon. I hope that I get to see you all again soon at a webinar. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your week.